Welcome to Obsessed with Success, starring Russell Morgan.
Hello and welcome to Obsessed with Success with Russell Morgan, the show where legal insight meets entrepreneurial passion. My name is Kevin Rosenquist, and on this podcast, we go beyond the basics of legal practice to uncover the personal stories, strategic decisions, and bold moves that define today's most successful legal professionals. Russell, it's so good to see you again. Thanks for being here.
Kevin, always great to see you.
Yeah, absolutely. So today we're going to talk about estate planning lessons from the stars, past celebrity estate planning mistakes that you believe offer valuable lessons.
Absolutely. So there have been stories, and there are always stories in the news about celebrities and certain issues with their wealth and how it was structured, and most importantly, what we can learn from it. And I'm sure you and everybody else from our listeners remembers Prince.
I do remember Prince.
Taught us a valuable lesson. Prince's estate was in court for about 6 years or so.
Wow.
And the lesson of Prince's estate was Prince died without a will.
Okay.
And this emphasizes the importance of having a will in place because he died intestate. So essentially, his estate turned into a free-for-all between who the law decided was standing to inherit, not based on who he chose, but just based on who was next of kin.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why it went on for so long was it raises people out of the woodwork. You know, when someone dies without a will, especially a star like Prince, we're going to have new nephews and new brothers and sisters and people who are alleging to be family that nobody knew about.
I tried. It didn't work.
So, you know, he is a prime example of what happens where we do not plan ahead.
Yeah.
And the end result was a 6-year battle. And not to bore everyone with the details, but everybody gets their day in court. So everybody had the opportunity to prove whether they were one of his heirs, whether they were part of the bloodline, whether they were a true beneficiary to his estate. And ultimately, this bled the estate millions and millions of dollars in litigation expenses. Just imagine a 6-year battle, countless people involved, and all of the legal fees in the process that really Prince's true legacy was shortened by because of the war over the estate.
That's nuts. 6 years. I mean, 6 years is kind of crazy. I mean, that's a really long time. But I guess, like you said, everyone gets their day in court, so everybody got an opportunity to plead their case.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So one of the second most important lessons that we teach all of our clients is not updating your beneficiaries can be a major, major problem in the future. Now, Heath Ledger tragically passed, and it was unexpected, and he died, unfortunately, very young. His estate, he did leave a will in place, but he left his daughter out. He just didn't name her. And when it came to court, now we had someone who thought that they had prepared, but he had another child during the process. And because he died so quickly and unexpectedly, he didn't have a chance to update in his situation. But it stresses the importance of updating beneficiaries on our assets. Whether this is a bank account with listed beneficiaries or a will or a trust that's just simply outdated.
Right.
I can't tell you how many cases we deal with at our firm where these issues come up regularly. Someone who, let's say, is producing a subsequent will that shows that there may have been an update attempted to be made. The person was trying to make the change. They were trying to update their beneficiaries. And unfortunately, they passed away before they were able to complete it. And the court can't really use an attempt at a change. You know, a draft will or a draft trust or a draft amendment doesn't really get us to the finish line. So what happens? The old document, the outdated version, which truly doesn't speak to the person's intent, it doesn't include who they wanted to include in their estate, in most cases ends up controlling.
Another one that I know is kind of a famous learning spot or a learning story is James Gandolfini, correct?
That's right. Everybody remembers James Gandolfini, the star of The Sopranos.
One of the best shows I've ever seen.
Absolutely. So when James Gandolfini passed, they learned one of the three most important lessons. They overlooked tax implications. James Gandolfini's estate had substantial estate tax liabilities. And this is primarily because they didn't have effective planning in place. There were issues with the way he structured division of his assets, the distribution of certain investments that he had in place. He had restructured other things thinking that he was doing the right thing, but unfortunately, because he didn't have proper counsel, and really, like most people, he was doing his best, thinking he was doing the right thing. But at the end of the day, the estate suffered to its detriment, and really it cost hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in avoidable tax consequences. Now, look, guys, we all have to pay our taxes. That's the reality of life. But tax planning is a real tool, and in this case, it's a teachable moment to understand that there are tax efficient strategies that we use at Morgan Legal Group on a regular basis to mitigate certain avoidable liabilities.
I'm going to ask you a question that I bet every listener is wondering right now. You just laid 3 stories out with people who had just gobs of money. How do they mess up? And I know it's not always their fault, I mean, but how do they not have someone, how did Prince not have someone going, dude, you need a will? Or how did Heath Ledger not have someone there saying, hey, you got to update your beneficiaries? I don't know. It just seems impossible to me.
You know what? And this comes up so often. It's the people who we think have everything together that from the outside looking in look like everything is on point, that are usually the ones that aren't prepared. And we'll focus on the celebrity lifestyle for just a moment. Living fast paced, traveling a lot, this adds a lot of stress. It adds to your health, your diet, and in some cases, and in the 3 that we focused on, it may very well have been part of the reason why they died so early. And because you're constantly on the move, you're not really thinking about the future. You're more thinking about today. But you would be surprised that for a lot of folks that you would believe have it all together, unfortunately, they just don't. And part of it is because people don't ask questions. The other part is people really need to be a bit more proactive about their legacy. At the end of the day, what are we working for? We're working to make sure that whoever we leave it to, whether it's to charity or to our children, that we do this effectively and efficiently. Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you can't take it with you. So if you're going to make sure that whoever you intend it to receive actually receives it, plan ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the whole point, right, of this episode, is take the lessons from these people. Here are people who had everything, but managed to kind of at least not plan properly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you have an example of a case maybe where someone is planning properly?
One of my favorites, of course, is Jeff Bezos, and this is the billionaire estate plan. Now, Jeff Bezos has really created a story of ground up success. And beyond the fact that he's a billionaire 100 times over, he has put in place a plan of action where he's essentially donating the majority of his wealth during his life or after his death. And the lesson here is that charitable planning is an effective estate planning tool. Now, Bezos is choosing to focus on climate change and inequality. He founded the Bezos Earth Fund with a $10 billion commitment to fight climate change. And he also established Blue Origin to promote space travel. While all of this is extremely important and extremely altruistic, the focus here is charitable planning is a real tool to mitigate the expenses that come with settling your estate. One of the reasons why people do lifetime charitable gifting and post-death charitable planning is to lower estate tax. And the idea is to bring down the value so that you can maximize what your heirs actually receive long term during life and after passing. This is why Jeff is doing it today and also after he passes away, because they're creating vehicles that essentially continuously donate to charity, which allows them to maximize certain tax deductions. So it's a perfect example of someone who, in their prime, has already put everything in motion to make sure that not only his legacy is protected, but he's doing some good with his money. Mm-hmm. You know, in reality, he really is dedicating a $10 billion commitment just for the Earth Fund. And he emphasizes the importance of estate planning and creating a lasting legacy in all of his speeches. You know, if you've ever paid attention or have ever actually listened to him speak at the Earth Fund Foundation or at the Blue Origin, he talks about this stuff openly and how important it is to plan ahead.
You know, most of us don't have $10 billion to donate. So in practical terms for the people listening, what does that look like for people like the normal people, the normies, if you will? What kind of plans do you help put together when it comes to charitable donations and also taking care of families? Like, what do you recommend?
So charitable remainder trusts are very common, and they're a tool that we use to allow families, the creators, and their next generation to pick the charities in some cases. In other cases, to allow the person they designate as trustee to pick the charities. But ultimately, because they're giving away a percentage of their money annually, it allows them to receive a portion of it, maximizing tax deductions. So because they're donating a percentage of it, and usually it's about 10% or higher, the other 90% or so, they're lowering their tax obligations. So to your point, it's not about being a billionaire. This is something that everyday people can use to make sure that giving a little bit today goes a long way for their family tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. So looking at these three cases, you had Prince, who neglected to have a will. Heath Ledger didn't update his beneficiaries, and James Gandolfini had tax liabilities due to improper planning. What of these three situations do you find the most in your practice?
The worst case scenario is where you have a combination.
Oh, yeah, that would be bad.
I would say that's probably number one, is where we have somebody who doesn't have a will in place. They haven't updated, or they tried to update, and maybe they tried to do it on their own. Tax planning is not something that a lot of people take into consideration, even though they should. But I think most common would be not having anything in place.
Yeah. And
this is probably the biggest error. There's a statistic out there today that approximately 64% of all Americans do not have a will in place. That's a scary statistic. And the reason why is who receives when you pass differs state by state. And, New York might say it'll be your wife and kids, for example. The state over might say it's going to be your parents and your spouse and then your kids. And people have this assumption that everything's going to be okay. I'm married, I have children, or I'm just married, or I don't have much to leave, or some reason why it's always delayed for the future. And unfortunately, what we stress to our clients is we plan for today. We're planning today to make sure that your tomorrow is safe. Not having a plan is the scariest outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And probably the most common effect that we see at the end is it ruins your family. That at the end of the day, the people that are suffering are your next of kin, and the ones that you would think should be coming together are now, in some cases, fighting over this estate, when had the person just even simply put a will in place, at least have kept the family civil, because now your intent is clear. So doing something is always better than doing nothing at all. And that's the lesson I want to leave our listeners today, is planning today is done not just for the future, but to make sure that we address today. What we face tomorrow is not promised. And you and I both know that, unfortunately, in our examples, whether it's Prince, Heath Ledger, or Gandolfini, tomorrow's not promised. These
Right.
are legends. These are stars that all died unexpectedly. And the lesson we want to leave is, don't leave things to chance. Doing your essential estate plan will always ensure that your loved ones are, at a bare minimum, protected and your intent is carried out.
Absolutely. Well, I like that. That was super interesting stuff and great lessons for all of us, for sure. Growth with intention is the name of the game. And so make sure you subscribe and share Obsessed with Success wherever you get your podcasts. We're also out there on YouTube as well. Russell, for anyone who wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
MorganLegalNY.com or MorganLegalGroup.com, or you can reach us 24/7, 888-529-1315, or find us on social media at Morgan Legal Group on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for that. And thank you guys for listening. Russell, it's been great chatting with you. Thanks so much for your time.
Always a pleasure, Kevin.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.